In an act of vengeance, 2 Mexican Marines were abducted the last time a relative of El Mencho was jailed. Subsequently, a military siege was initiated, and tanks and helicopters transformed one of Guadalajara's most affluent districts into a battleground. Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today we'll be looking at El Mencho, Mexico's most wanted man. Yeah, you heard it right. On Tuesday, December 20th, following the arrest of the Kingpin's brother, Antonio Azaguera, aka Tony Montana, the authorities in the Mexican states of Jalisco, Colima, and Michoacan were on high alert, with military and police stationed at nearly every corner. The sole violent act of retaliation undertaken by members of the Jalisco New Generation cartel was the burning of an automobile. However, the unprecedented display of force by the security forces demonstrated that the battle between the government and the most powerful mafia in Mexico had worsened. Nemesio Azaguera Cervantes, aka El Mencho, is the leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. He is the primary target of both Mexican and American law enforcement. The United States Department of Justice is paying up to $10 million for information leading to the capture of the most wanted criminal in North America. The pursuit of El Mencho has become a vindictive game of chess comprised of a never-ending series of attacks and counterattacks despite all the effort expended to capture him. Even in Aguascalientes, one of Mexico's 32 smallest states, the mafia is nearly everywhere. In 2015, when El Mencho was beginning to establish himself as El Chapo's successor in the area of organized crime, the Mexican army killed one of El Mencho's men. In response, a military convoy was ambushed, resulting in the deaths of 15 operatives. The arrest of several of the involved hitmen was followed by blockades throughout Jalisco and the destruction of a military helicopter with a bazooka. When El Mencho's wife was detained for the first time 3 years later, she was charged with ruining the cartel's finance apparatus. This was interpreted as a government reprisal to the attempted murder of a former prosecutor. Her second arrest in 2021 resulted in the notorious abduction of 2 Marines. Several observers consider the recent arrest of El Mencho's brother as reprisal for the cartel's kidnapping of a colonel. However, security analyst Alejandro Hope does not believe that the arrest of Antonio Azaguera is necessarily tied to the December 10th disappearance of Colonel Jose Isidro Grimaldo by cartel members. He believes that preparations for the operation to capture El Mencho's brother began well before the abduction. This may be a coincidence. Perhaps the kidnapping of the soldier may have injected some urgency into the matter. Hope also throws out the notion that the arrest of the drug lord's brother is a ploy to induce the new generation to negotiate for the colonel's release. It is still unclear what position Tony Montana played inside the criminal organization structure. This won't change the cartel's calculations, he notes. The recent disclosure of millions of emails from the Mexican military leadership, known as the Guacamaya leaks, exposed the Ministry of National Defense's intensive intelligence operations in monitoring the tentacles of the Jalisco New Generation. Even in Aguascalientes, one of Mexico's 32 smallest states, the mafia is nearly everywhere. However, the majority of covert missions have not been particularly successful. When the army staged a failed raid based on erroneous intelligence in an attempt to apprehend a prominent drug lord, violent revenge erupted across the states of Jalisco and Guanajuato. Guillermo Valdez, who directed Mexico's National Intelligence Center during the presidency of Felipe Calderón, asks, how much intelligence does the army have? 2006 to 2012. From what we saw in the documents from the Guacamaya leaks, they have a lot of intelligence, but they don't use it. Sporadic arrests won't amount to much. Despite the strengthening of the militaristic strategy imposed by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador with the formation of the National Guard and the large deployment of soldiers on the streets, it appears that the government is more concerned with containment. There is no enthusiasm for combating organized crime. Nonetheless, violence in Mexico has hardly diminished throughout the past 4 years of López Obrador's presidency. Carlos Flores, a researcher and security specialist who has studied the Jalisco New Generation cartel in depth, points out that the government strategy lacks adequate synergy with the other bodies. To convict gangs of organized crime, there is limited cooperation with agencies such as the Financial Intelligence Unit and the Prosecutor's Office. They should focus on networks and not individuals, he explains. Flores perceives a mostly verbal distinction between López Obrador's stance on drug trafficking and that of past administrations, probably a little less insulting. The approach hasn't changed, he insists, because there remains a tendency to give continuity to the Kingpin strategy. Besides, referring to the practice of devoting enormous resources to pursuing criminal leaders. During the administration of Enrique Peña Nieto, the strategy of dismantling cartels by arresting their leaders was very crucial from 2012 to 2018. Given the displacement of previous top dogs, this prepared the door for the development of El Mencho and his cartel. For Guillermo Valdez, who led the intelligence service during the militarized escalation of the war on drugs before Peña Nieto took office, there is no general strategy to dismantle criminal organizations, only the search for big bosses. Valdez, who's now an analyst, refers to the period that he spent helping to demolish the Z's, one of Mexico's largest and most vicious criminal organizations, which has greatly decreased. First, we focus on the operative cells, the hitmen, the regional bosses, the accountants, the financial operators. We were undermining the organization from below to weaken it. After that, we were able to catch the leaders. Valdez acknowledges that times have changed. True, the Jalisco new generation is more aggressive towards the state. So that's all from today's video. If you enjoyed it, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell icon so that you never miss our upcoming videos. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Stay tuned, and we'll catch you in the next video.